Welcome to another informative episode of Housing Development. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. As you marry during this time, do not let down your guard. Take responsibility, protect yourself and your loved ones. Observe all the COVID-19 safety measures as the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic is seen worldwide. Away from that, now it's time to discuss housing and all that concerns it. But first, let's have a look at the news making rounds in the sector. I am Fleur Arnie, your housing diva.
The Managing Director and CEO of Nigeria Police Property Development Company, Kemi Olomolasijuade, has charged all relevant stakeholders in the industry on the need to pay critical attention and response to the housing need of the country. Olomolasijuade proceeded that the housing deficit in Nigeria demands emergency as it is both a supply and demand problem. Speaking during the media launch of the NSHP Model Home and Information Portal of the National Social Housing Program in Abuja, she said that Nigeria has an estimated housing deficit between 16 million to 22 million, and to bridge it, a minimum of 700,000 to 1 million housing units would have to be built every year for probably a decade. Whereas according to the National Bureau of Statistics, Nigeria presently builds an average of only 100,000 housing units per year, and only a few working-class Nigerians can afford to buy one, which ought not to be. Speaking further, she said with Nigeria's population presently over 200 million and estimated to hit 263 million by 2038, the housing deficit problem in the country demands emergency attention and response by all relevant stakeholders in the industry. The federal government has concluded plans to build resettlement cities for internally displaced persons and refugees in Borno, Zamfara, Katsina and Edo states. The Federal Commissioner, National Commission for Refugee Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons, Bashir Mohammed, who disclosed this in an interview with journalists, said the cities are expected to resettle and accommodate as many displaced persons in the country as possible. Mohammed, who noted that the Commission is shifting focus from just providing food to the IDPs, said in each of the selected states there will be a design of 600 houses with 2-bedroom flats to accommodate as many households as possible. The resettlement cities, which are to be built in the zones most affected by Boko Haram insurgency, banditry, as well as herdsmen and farmer clashes in the country, are specified to have worship centers, skill acquisition centers, police stations, water treatment, among other features. The Emir of Talata Mafara, Alhaji Bello Muhammad Barmu, has urged the Zamfara government to reduce the housing deficit facing the town. Muhammad Barmu made the call in Talata Mafara on Tuesday at a town hall meeting for Zamfara West on the state's 2021 appropriation bill. He said they were aware of the state government's plan in the 2021 budget to provide 10,000 houses across the states and wanted the government to include Talata Mafara town among beneficiaries of such projects. Aside from the challenge of housing considering the higher institutions located in the town, the Emir also called for the establishment of a modern veterinary hospital in the area. Mohammed Barmu said that the Emirate would support and cooperate with the present administration in the states to provide meaningful projects to the people. He urged the people to continue to pray against security challenges in the states. And meanwhile, Professor Samson Duna has been confirmed as the new Director General of the Nigerian Building and Road Research Institute. This was made known by Nigeria's Minister of Science and Technology, Ogbonnaya Onu. Professor Duna expressed his readiness to work for the positive growth of the institute and the development of Nigeria. Professor Duna is an erudite scholar and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Engineering Management, Fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, a Quran registered engineer, and a Fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Civil Engineering.
Make you dey wash your hands, make you dey wear your mask, make you dey sanitize, oh, make we first stay alive. No huggy, no shaky.
Oga Solo, why you go come visit me, come wear face mask on your chin? She not like that, they say make we dey wear am. Oh yeah, wear face mask very well before you enter my house. And give me your hand, make I give you hand sanitizer.
No vessel, I go put am well now.
My country people, ndi nke mu, enyi temi, make una come hear the better news what bring come. She una know say COVID-19 still dey everywhere. That is to say, when you want jolly jolly with your family and your friends for this kind ogbonge period, make you remember say you go wash your hand very well with soap and water and sanitize your hand anywhere you dey go. Make you no oggy, no shaky. Wear your face mask properly anywhere where you dey go. Clean your environment and maintain your personal hygiene. Remember say, if you do your part and I do my own, that is to say, we all go overcome this pandemic.
Now the University of Lagos Center for Housing and Sustainable Development, you know this story where the Arts and Humanities Research Council UK they back up.
With the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you'll be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Festive Media Group, organizers of Abuja International Housing Show and owners of Housing Development Program on AIT and TBC, wishes to appreciate all our partners who without them we wouldn't have recorded a successful year.
All of the other reindeers used to laugh and call him names. They never let poor Rudolph join in any reindeer games. Then one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa came to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright.
We say thank you for your unending support this year. We promise to do more and we count on your continued support.
Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad, Feliz Navidad.
For more housing, finance and construction news, visit www.africanhousingnews.com. Purchasing a dream home is one of those life accomplishments that tops nearly everyone's wish list. Most of us hope to find a home that feels like it was made specifically for our family. But in buying or renting a property, what would you consider, price or neighborhood? Let's find out on Voices on the Street.
I first of all consider my neighborhood of many reasons. First of all, someone like me, I don't like disturbance, one. And secondly, in terms of security. Those are the two key points that I consider.
What you preferably first is to consider the neighborhood. The neighborhood, where you want to buy the house. Who are the people that will be your neighbor? Because don't consider the price at the detriment of your safety. If you go and rent the house in a place where your safety is not guaranteed, no matter the amount of the rent, you will still not be at peace. So just consider first the neighborhood. Yes, the price, you can get a very reasonable price in a very good neighborhood as well. But don't just put the price at the expense of your safety and security. It's very important.
I consider the both because of my pocket and again security.
I consider neighborhood because the security of my family is my utmost priority. And so I consider the neighbor, the kind of people that will stay around the place before I rent a house.
I consider the neighborhood very important because there are some places that the environment is not conducive. It's either dirty, it's lousy, it's not a place suitable for you to raise children. So it's always better that the environment is good enough for you to live before you think about price. Price is what you can always bargain, but you may not have the means of changing the environment. Maybe bad roads. You may not have the means of putting that in order. So you always consider the environment first. If I had to park from a house I was living because of the environment, refuse everywhere, people sweep into the road and all of that.
I think I would consider the neighborhood first. The neighborhood will go a long way to consider the security of the place, and over time I believe the price value must have appreciated, and it will give value to wherever you're going to stay or wherever you're acquiring as your own place. So I think the security of the place and the neighborhood matters before I go into purchase or rentage of any place.
At first, my first thing should be security, because I need to be secured in an environment where I'm staying. I need to be sure of the people I'm living with in the environment before asking for the price. Then probably the next thing might be the price, because if I don't have enough money to rent that particular apartment, I should know what I have before going to get the house.
On behalf of myself, the Board of Trustees, and members of the ESCO of Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, I wish to congratulate and say Happy New Year to all our esteemed members and customers, to all our stakeholders in the housing industry. We wish you a very prosperous and happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Towing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time.
Price and location oftentimes will go hand in hand when you want to rent or buy a property. Think about what is the most important factor for you when you look to buy. Sure, price is nice, but location is always better. But in all, know what your financial capability is. A house is an investment that appreciates over time. I'll be back in a moment.
Keep a date with Housing Development Program every week on TVC. Housing Development is the first and pioneer housing program in Nigeria and by extension, Africa. It remains the authentic voice of the Nigerian housing and construction industry. Housing Development is the only credible and specialized platform for seasoned professionals in the build industry, where quality and credible players in the real estate sector meet to interact, showcase, and analyze government policies. It is no doubt that hundreds of thousands of prospective Nigerians who desire to own their personal properties have done so through the assistance of Housing Development Program in the last 10 years. If you are a stakeholder in the build industry, here is where you must be. We are authentic, credible, and supported by all the leading professionals in the build industry. Housing Development on TVC.
The federal government and government institutions realize that there's a link between housing development, that's on the demand side, the mortgage, housing development, employment provision, and poverty alleviation. The day we are able to link these three together, the government will realize that, listen, housing and mortgage scheme contribute 71% of the GDP in Canada. That is true. 68% in the US, and so on and so forth. In Nigeria, it said it's 2.5 to 3%. I'm sure it is even far below that. But if the government realizes that if I invest in housing seriously in the entire ecosystem, I will not only be beefing up the GDP in Nigeria, I'll be providing employment and solving social problems. In 1938, I go back to Frederick Mark and Freddie May. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. At that time, President Roosevelt simply took the bull by the horn, political will, and brought government investment into housing, and they went into massive housing development. At the same time, he created the Freddie Mac, who provided the framework for development and ensuring that the properties developed are given to the workers who need it and creating a framework where mortgages are paid back. That was how they tackled it. The 50 billion you have, let me give you a classical example quickly, could actually build property of 10 million per apartment, 5,000 units to start with. Put 3,500 in Lagos, 500 in Abuja, 1,000 in Port Harcourt, another 500 in Kano. A worker who is able currently paying rent of 500,000 naira a year to 1 million naira a year can afford that and pay over 15, 20 years. If government does that, every year, the government will get a feedback of at least 5 billion in mortgage repayment, and that money will go back into rebuilding. If you are building 5,000 units a year, and people see that Nigerian workers are able to get this accommodation and live in and pay back, foreign investors will come. For now, as beautiful as Pencom is a very fat cow, but I fear that except we put a functional mortgage system on ground with institutional framework, we should not tamper with pension fund. If the structure on ground is good, pension could provide a solution to the Nigerian mortgage system and the housing equation. So I'm only saying that, please, can the government rise up a little bit and look at the link between GDP growth, housing and mortgage sector, and unemployment.
Your water and housing development. The program is housing development. So many happenings and events shaped this year 2020. We witnessed the good, the bad, and the ugly. Now let's see the major happenings that shaped the housing sector in 2020.
Amid all the uncertainty 2020 brought, it is undeniable that it has impacted the housing sector positively and negatively. From policymakers, estate developers, experts, and stakeholders to customers, the weight of the year has been felt. Here is a look at the major happenings in the real estate sector from January to December. In January, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari said there will be a completion of 47 ongoing road projects, including those leading to the nation ports and major bridges, including substantial work on the second Niger Bridge in 2020. He also revealed that 13 housing estates under the National Housing Project Plan would be completed this year. According to him, Lagos, Kano, Maiduguri, and Enugu International Airports will also be inaugurated in 2020. Also in January, the new VAT rate was announced to increase from 5% to 7.5%. From February 1, the new VAT rate was effective. Also, the fourth edition of the Real Estate Outlook held, which brought stakeholders in the real estate sector together to speak extensively on ways to make homes affordable for the average Nigerian in line with government policies. In March, Nigeria commenced its lockdown in line with medical and the federal government's directive to curb the spread of the coronavirus. This shut down some companies in the housing sector such as hotels, restaurants, and markets. This of course impacted the sector negatively. In supporting the economy, the Central Bank of Nigeria in April set out a number of measures to tackle the impact of the coronavirus, including establishing a fund to support the country's economy of 50 billion naira, targeted at households and micro and small enterprises, with one of the objectives being creating jobs that enhance growth and create infrastructural investments in roads, bridges, solar power, and communications technologies. Also in April, Housing Development Advocacy Network launched a webinar series on the development of Nigeria's housing sector, intending to predict, discuss, and suggest practical recommendations that will mitigate the impact of COVID-19 on the housing sector. In May, the Nigerian Mortgage Refinance Company collaborated with a multitude of stakeholders towards raising over $2.7 million for a health workers fund for medical personnel posted to COVID-19 disease control centers across Nigeria. The NMRC, in collaboration with the CBN, also advanced the adoption of the Model Mortgage Foreclosure Law in Nigeria, aimed at facilitating accessible and affordable mortgages for residents of the state. In June, measures called the Phase 2 to ease the lockdown was introduced. Lagos, also in the same month, reiterated the need to meet housing demand and tackle the housing deficit with reforms. The governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, commissioned 360 housing units comprising 121 bedroom, 122 bedroom, and 123 bedroom apartments, including the Lagos State Affordable Public Housing Scheme, Badagry, with 252 bedroom apartments. July saw the hosting of the prestigious Abuja International Housing Show, which held virtually and featured exhibition from top housing brands and real estate companies. Aside showcasing brands at the exhibition, it also preferred solutions to meet housing and mortgage needs. Headline inflation rose in August by 13.22%, which was 0.40% higher than July. This began to cause an increase in price of homes and property, alongside building and construction materials. All items indexed on year-on-year basis was highest in Kogi, Bauchi, and Ebonyi, and Yobe, while Lagos, Kwara, and Abuja recorded the slowest rise in headline year-on-year inflation. On month-on-month basis, however, all items inflation was highest in Ondo, Ogun, and Abia, while Plateau, Zamfara, and Sokoto recorded the slowest rise in headline month-on-month inflation. In September, the Monetary Policy Committee under the CBN met in the light of lingering uncertainties associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. Interventions were largely in the areas of manufacturing, agriculture, electricity and gas, solar power, and housing constructions, among others. Under the real sector funds, a total of 87 projects that included 53 manufacturing, 21 agriculture, and 13 services projects were funded. In the healthcare sector, 41 projects, which included 16 pharmaceuticals and 25 hospital and healthcare services, were funded. It expressed optimism that these initiatives will significantly ease the adverse impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and set the economy on a path of recovery. So far, total disbursements from the bank's interventions in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic amounted to 3.5 trillion naira, with an allocation of 216.87 billion naira to real sector funds. Protests and destruction of private and government property shook the country, stemming from the EndSARS protests in October. Vandalization was the order of the day, caused by the infiltration of thugs, which in turn greatly affected the housing sector. In November, the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing launched the first annual policy dialogue series on sustainable human settlement development in Nigeria, focusing on promoting resilient and sustainable cities and human development in Nigeria, featuring stakeholders in the housing sector, preferring solutions and providing affordable housing in the face of urbanization. Also in November, Federal Mortgage Bank of Nigeria commissioned workers' estates in Ebonyi and Enugu. Same November, the investiture of new president of Nigeria Institute of Town Planners took place in Lagos. The year, however, ended on a blissful note as estate developers, stakeholders, and housing giants were rewarded for their dedication and hard work despite a tough year at the Nigeria Housing Awards. Also in December, Family Homes Funds Limited launched a prototype of a 1 and 2 bedroom home of the National Social Housing Program. The program is intended to provide housing for 300,000 housing units across the country, alongside the creation of 1.8 million jobs for Nigerians. Also in December, the first Lagos Real Estate Market Conference took place with many participants.
So towing and hearts will be glowing when loved ones are near. It's the most wonderful time.
Welcome back. The holiday season is upon us and many people are already making plans to travel or already traveled. With the second wave of COVID-19 pandemic being seen worldwide, everyone should ensure they stay safe, take responsibility to protect yourself and your loved ones. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water. Use hand sanitizer when this is not obtainable, and do not forget to wear your face masks while in public places.
everyone that is alive today will not forget in hurry the year 2020, the year of pandemic. So it is time to say thank you to God for keeping every one of us. So on behalf of my team at First Adam Media Group, Housing Development Advocacy Network, and Abuja International Housing Show, housing program on AIT and TVC. We want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year in advance.
Do not let down your guard as you marry this holiday season. On that note, I wrap up today's edition of Housing Development. Thanks for watching. Merry Christmas. I remain Flora Arnie, your housing diva.